Doses of Good. Kaya Natin webinar series is in partnership with the Philippine Daily Inquirer, the Inquirer Foundation, and Inquirer.net. Doses. Doses of Good Governance. Kaya Natin Movement's webinar series is in partnership with the Philippine Daily Inquirer, the Inquirer Foundation, and Inquirer.net. Doses of Good Governance. Kaya Natin Movement's webinar series is in partnership with
Are we good to go? Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me, all our guests this afternoon? Can you hear me? Can you see a thumbs up, everyone? Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This afternoon, we are looking at three of our representatives representing Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. So, buong Pilipinas po. I will greet you all first in my own dialect. Mayong hapon, kaninyong tanan din na sa Kabisayan, and I'm sure just one greeting siguro from all our guests first, to start with Vice Mayor Coro.
Marajaw na hapon sa tanan from Surigao Islands.
Mayor Madel.
Hi, maray na gabi, ay maray na apon kaninyong amin. That's good afternoon to everyone.
And our board member, Jason Gonzales.
Maayong hapon sa inyong atanan, halin sa probinsya sang Iloilo. Kag maayong hapon sa imo, Marisa.
Maayong hapon kaninyong tulo. So I guess we proceed now with our first presentation. I'm looking forward to a very exciting exchange. Prelude to this, marami tayong napag-usapan. So I'll introduce our speaker, the Vice Mayor of supposedly once dubbed the most beautiful island in the world. He used to be with the private sector, left the private sector to actually serve, once dubbed as top 10 of the local government executives in the country. So I guess if I have to read, kung basahon pa nina ko tanan, I mean a very long list of achievements in your credentials. So I guess without further delay, I'd like to introduce the Vice Mayor of the municipality of Del Carmen in the beautiful islands of Surigao. Vice Mayor Coro.
Thank you, ma'am. May hapon, may I request Ms. Camille for the slide. Medyo mabagal yung aking internet. Okay. First, advance Merry Christmas sa ating lahat dahil nasa Pilipinas tayo at bare months na. And again, thank you to Kaya Natin, to Ma'am Marisa for the invitation to share our COVID journey as of August 2020. Since yung response and the pandemic is still ongoing, so as of August 2020. Next slide, please. Carmen is one of the 9 municipalities of Surigao Islands. Kagaya ng sinabi ni Marisa, the 2019 #1 island in the world per Condé Nast. Carmen is hosts the largest contiguous mangrove forest in the Philippines and the world-famous Sugba Lagoon. So, pang intro lang. Next, please. Our story will cover our response through health and safety, security and order, livelihood support, and raising the voice of some sectors. Una po, let's start with health and safety response. So as advocates of public health and disaster management, we had an early response to COVID supported by policy. So February 6 pa lang, nag-ready na kami. This grounded all our stakeholders to monitor early the threat of the virus. Next, please. We had organizational readiness and set up the command center immediately with an initial run of 24/7 until we operated the command center in the frame of the new normal. So since new normal na, it's parang daily naman na yung setup natin ng pagkuha ng mga travel pass. Nag-ooperate na rin kami Monday to Friday na lang. Next, please. Financial and other resources were made ready for a 6-month battle. As early as March, ang assumption namin, it's gonna be at least a 6-month battle with COVID. So additional support from Bayanihan 1 was very much welcome. Rehabilitation of the vehicles, preparation of the municipal quarantine schools, medicines to relaunch butika sa barangay, lahat po yun, ginawa namin early on. So naging ready talaga yung aming community. Next, please. Massive information campaign was done through appropriate channels, including recording and speakers. Kinabit namin yung speaker sa sasakyan tapos umiikot-ikot siya. Parang lumang style ng pag-broadcast. That way, we were able to disseminate the information up to the last mile ng all of the actions we are doing with the MI. Next, please. In terms of hunger management, we focused on the staple food families, dumadaang distribution initially. Then, yung ngayon, monthly na kasi medyo nakakatrabaho na naman. And also, we are monitoring hunger and crimes related to hunger weekly. So, minamanage talaga namin yan. So far, wala kaming na-report na issue since March. Some of the distributed rice na ginagamit namin, binibili namin yan galing sa local farmers din namin. Second response, next slide please. Focus on security and order response. Next please. Hosting the Surigao Domestic Airport, which is a regional checkpoint, in the Del Carmen Seaport, we work with the province and the Department of Tourism for the repatriation of tourists. Medyo madami-dami po kaming nagawa at yung iba, direct coordination with the embassies. So napakarami pong embassy kausap namin and they were very grateful for the support. In terms of returning residents naman at taga Del Carmen na bumabalik, we had to manage the entry of returning residents. Humaki ang bayan natin na tapos medyo marami kaming ROF, LSIs. So kung hindi namin na-manage yun through the Balik Del Carmen Tawag Center, baka ma-overwhelm kami. Next please. Part of our commitment to manage entry of individuals naman through the island communities. And same time, we conducted seaborne patrol versus illegal fishing. So yung bantay dagat namin po, continued operations together with the PNP despite risks. And I think we had around 50 na na-apprehend, 50 plus already na na-apprehend na illegal fishers in the last 6 months. Next, please. In terms of conservation amid pandemic, tuloy-tuloy po yung ating activities. Our commitment to conservation, we launched the Mangrove Warrior versus COVID to remind our people of our commitment to the protection of the mangrove forest. And pag may nahuhuli po kaming wildlife and critical marine species, they were released back to the wild or to the sea even during the pandemic. So nakikita niyo po dyan yung mga turtles, around 20 plus na po yung aming nahibalik sa dagat ng mga turtles. Next po. Livelihood support, we focus on the farmers and the fisher folks, our food security heroes in this time of the pandemic. Next, please. As early as March 2020, when we declared the state of calamity in the municipality of Del Carmen, we immediately campaigned for everyone to do farming or to grow their own food. Ngayon po, we have an abundance of vegetables, fruit crops, and fruits. Next, please. So since they have grown food, and of course, yung mga mangingisda, they went back to fishing, tuloy-tuloy naman, di naman huminto. What we needed was to support their market access. So we sold the produce through various channels. During ECQ, GCQ, we had the mobile market. Tapos na nagkaroon na ng MGCQ, open markets na. Yung aming pong concept na mobile market, kinopya po kay Mayor Mads. Salamat. Our mobile market operate by getting produce in one barangay, tapos binibenta sa kabilang barangay. Naka-cluster yan sila. We also negotiated with other LGUs to allow our fish and marine products to be delivered as long as we follow certain protocols. So tuloy-tuloy ang negosyo ng mga fisher and farmers natin. Next, please. We push to open our tourism destinations early with the Department of Tourism's guidance following health protocols. So as early as June po, bukas na yung Sugbagun, yung mga mangrove tours natin, sa awa ng Diyos, nagtuloy-tuloy naman. We were catering to tourists that opted to stay in Surigao nung time na yon. Pero marami na rin silang umuwi. And to help out the MSMEs, lalo na yung mga maliliit na restaurants at saka yung mga stranded, we conducted forums to gather inputs for recovery and at the same time launched a food market concept in General Luna. So para siyang, sa mga taga Manila, para siyang Salcedo Market na nasa Surigao. Next, please. Recognizing that the public transport sector is also one of the most affected, we launched the Ihatod Public Logistics Program. They help transport purchased goods from our social media page turned online marketplace and some other online resellers. So marami nang nagbebenta sa puso ngayon, mga barter, mga online sales. Yung aming mga habal-habal, tricycle, multicab, so depende sa dami ng binibili mo, is pwede kang tumawag. Tatawag ka lang dyan sa hotline numbers, Smarter Globe. May pupunta sa'yo. Next. And lastly, we continued to push for barangay projects so people in the barangay will still see movement. May gumagalaw ba? The idea is to give them hope. Kasi pag sa rural areas, pag may construction, parang may pag-asa. So that's what we wanted to do. So we pushed for the projects to continue so that they will have hope for a better tomorrow. Next, please. Lastly, despite being a small local government, we work with our partners in development to help raise the voice of coastal and island municipalities. Next po. Una po, in early April, we participated to campaign for the role of fisher folks as frontliners for food security and to continue sustainable fishing. We also worked to push for equitable health and launched the Del Carmen Telemed program na ngayon po ay being expanded to cover all the 8 other municipalities of Surigao Islands magiging ano na siya, Surigao Telemed Services and Centers. This will address access to health immediately, even with limited mobility, lalo na sa mga senior citizens natin. Next po. We also work with media to increase the voice of small fisher folks in Southeast Asia with various publications. So ito po, medyo may pumick up din. This is focused on the work of the small fisher folks in Southeast Asia. Next po. And together with the Thomson Reuters Foundation, we work to increase the voice of small islands and how they responded to COVID in the Pacific and the Caribbean region. It also allowed Surigao to be in the consciousness of the global community. So para maiwan din kami doon. Itong article po na to was picked up by various online and print news outlets globally. So naiwan sa consciousness nila yung Surigao as dati one of the best islands in the world. So kung mag-recover yung tourism, nandyan yung Surigao sa listahan nila. Next. In closing, coastal communities and geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas found creative and innovative ways to address the pandemic despite all our limitations. We will continue to be resilient. We will win over this pandemic. And to quote VP Lenny Robredo, and of course our organization, Kaya Natin to. Salamat karadyo sa Ijorot. Stay safe. Stay at home. Yan po ang aming experience ng Del Carmen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dagang salamat, Vice Mayor Coro. Sorry, we had to have Vice Mayor Coro present right away because his signal is medyo intermittent. So we had to take advantage. Maraming salamat at least. Natapos natin yung presentation. And briefly, just a brief segue. The Doses of Good Governance is actually part of Kaya Natin's 12th year anniversary celebration. And this has been made possible through our partnerships, and this one in particular with the Inquirer. And we are now, in fact, live in all their Facebook pages, the Inquirer Foundation, the Inquirer.net, and the INQ subscription, the subscribers of our Philippine Daily Inquirer. Maraming salamat. So this is a good opportunity, I was telling our speakers, to actually have their voices heard, no? Meron silang mga experiences sa rural areas na kakaiba. At ito po ang isang magandang opportunity. Hindi maraming nakikinig sa inyo ngayon from Metro Manila, and just heads up siguro sa inyong tatlo, baka later on meron kayong may turo sa amin. There are some things that we can learn from you. Okay, I'd like to proceed. Hang in there, Vice Mayor Coro. I'll get back to you. Next, we would like to, view. There is a presentation that was put together by our next presenter. Just to give you a brief background, our next presenter is actually the mayor of Iriga City. She's actually known not just here, but also overseas and sought after as a speaker for her expertise in disaster resilience and preparedness. Kilalang-kilala po siya. In fact, I know of a lot of people abroad who have been asking me if they can request for the good mayor of Iriga to be a resource person in this particular field. And just as a bit of trivia for everyone, I guess, Mayor Madel is actually the treasurer of the United Cities and Local Governments of the world. Ganun po siya ka-trusted as a public official. So it is with great pride that she's a Kaya Natin champion. And she's put together this brief presentation for all of us on her experience in the COVID-19 pandemic and how they responded to it. Camille?
No country nor city was ever prepared for the coming of the pandemic known as COVID-19. Not even the Philippines, including Iriga City, have anticipated the possible ill effects of this health crisis. We were caught off guard. There was complete struggle. The outcome was debilitating. In this time of difficulty, that we need a helping hand, that we seek for aid, and we look for every possibility that would eventually lead to a solution to the presenting problem. The number of COVID-19 cases rose day by day. Thus, the need for stringent policies and preventive measures became a requisite, and we seemed to lose optimism, but chose to remain resilient and hopeful that one day, everyone will be on their feet and find their way to our aid. Iriga City, under the leadership of our very indefatigable and hardworking city mayor, Honorable Madel Alfelor, found it fitting to holistically address the people's needs. Other than the 47 issuances regarding COVID-19, which includes city ordinances, executive orders, administrative orders, memorandums, and advisories, she came up with the initiatives that will assuage the ill effects of the pandemic. During the pandemic, the appeal of buying from local farmers is not just about values, it's also about security. In January of 2020, Iriga City farmers started planting local products, and in time of the enhanced community quarantine, the Iriga City government, through the Office of the City Agriculture, directly buy their agricultural produce at farm gate price. Thus, the creation of the Vegetable on Wheels project, which primarily aims to assist the local farmers to earn and maintain their livelihood. The Agricultural Office of the city facilitated the pickup of the assorted vegetables from the farmers and distributes the products to the 36 barangays of the city for selling in their barangay satellite market, and some were distributed to the local constituents for free. Because of its timeliness, the Vegetable on Wheels evolved into a rolling store where all commodities are available. Vegetable seedlings were distributed to the residents for free to encourage Irigeños to plant vegetables to be self-sufficient and food secured, and to elevate it a little further. The Saudan sa Barangay or satellite market was implemented in partnership with the vendors who live in the barangays. They no longer need to transfer their merchandise to the public market, but instead sell them to their own villagers. Similarly, the people in their community need not to go to the public market to buy their daily needs. Having access to a sufficient quantity and affordable food is never a problem in Iriga City. The city government of Iriga also launched the first and only contact tracing app in Bicol region and even in the whole Philippines, wherein by using the technology developed by the city government, contact tracing of all the people in the city is fast and reliable. And the current development of the online unified RFID that will provide services to all clients online on all local government transactions in preparation for the new normal. The main public transportation in the city is the tricycle. Iriga City has 2,000 registered tricycle operators and is one of the major sources of household income. But because of the declaration of the enhanced community quarantine in Luzon, mass transportation has been suspended, thereby affected their source of income. However, they worry no more because the city launched the Toda Rescue Project. The Tricycle Operators and Drivers Association of the 36 barangays in the city were tapped as partners to man the checkpoints along boundaries and become force multipliers the start 2020. They have undergone by the DRRM, and their increased level of awareness capacitates them to handle accidents or disasters. Primarily, they help check and validate quarantine passes, certificate of exemption, and implement the ECQ regulations to all motorists entering or leaving the city. 100 tricycle drivers were hired and paid by the city to help augment their income in time of crisis while mass transport is suspended. Clearly, they are also considered as heroes for their service and for putting their lives at risk to help the city fight the COVID-19 crisis. The community quarantine guidelines is issued by the national government with regards to the minimum health standards, particularly social distancing, limits the number of passengers allowed in both public and private vehicles. Backriders were prohibited too. The result is remarkable, increase in public transportation costs, which took its toll especially to the minimum wage earners. Putting all this into consideration, a plan to aid commuters was put into action. iRide was launched through the initiative of the extraordinary Mayor Madel Alfelor and the efforts of the LGU Iriga. iRide addressed two pressing concerns. First, it gave livelihood to the most vulnerable sector of the society, the transportation sector. And second, it provided free shuttle service to all essential and non-essential workers in the city to alleviate the high cost of transport. A sanitized, just-in-time transfer service for workers, ensuring that they will be able to report for work and return home safely. Minimum health standards are practiced by every commuter. They have to wear masks, present company ID or contact tracing cards with QR codes issued by the local government unit of Iriga and should be seated on the marked seats only. It is still ongoing, following its daily schedules via 3 routes. A breakthrough project para sa manggagawang Irigenyo. As the number of COVID-19 positive cases increases each day, and as there is an influx of locally stranded individuals going back to their respective provinces, cities, and municipalities, every LGU has to be prepared for what is inevitable. The city government of Iriga did just that. As soon as GCQ was declared, our quarantine facilities have been organized and is already fully functional. There were 10 quarantine facilities and 60 room isolation facilities with 213 bed capacity. Most, if not all, of the people admitted in the quarantine facilities are locally stranded individuals, returning overseas Filipinos, and authorized persons outside of residence. They follow certain protocols and comply with the requirements needed for them to be allowed entrance to the city. Medical clearance certificate, negative RT-PCR results, travel authority, and certificate of employment, to name a few. All LSIs with no swab test are obliged to a 14-day quarantine at the quarantine facility of the city, thus approved by the Department of Health. The city mayor, together with the LGU team, caters a holistic program to all those admitted in the quarantine facility, such as early morning Zumba for physical conditioning, values formation, livelihood and agricultural training, and sports reintegration program. This provides those in quarantine the opportunity to learn, to earn, and keep their immune system healthy. Not your ordinary quarantine, only in Iriga City. While everyone is facing this dilemma, the city government of Iriga never ceased to come up with ways and means to combat the adverse effects of COVID-19 pandemic. Mayor Madel Alfelor and the city government of Iriga will ensure that this grueling crisis will come to an end. But this cannot be done alone. You, us, and we have a role to play. Together, we will heal as one.
Actually, Marisa, usually at the end of the video, I usually get goosebumps because I really hope that we will heal as one. Thank you, Kaya Natin, first and foremost. Thank you, Kaya Natin, for having me. Thank you for the introduction. Actually, speechless ako. Natatakot ako kasi grabe yung introduction sa akin. Baka grabe expectation.
Well, Mayor Mads, you are now being watched by the entire country. Partner natin ang Inquirer dito.
Wow,
So,
thank you, Inquirer. Thank you for this opportunity also to be heard outside of the Philippines, not only within the Philippines. But also, I don't know why I was with these two gentlemen who are all awardees and national and international awardees, and all computer savvy, especially si Mayor Coro, and also Jason, who happens to be all very intelligent people, by the way, and whom I admire most. So actually, the COVID is really sabi nga, it's really taking a toll out of us. We're all really very exhausted and very tired. But, you know, LGUs has no other choice but to survive. We have to survive. And, you know, this is what I've noticed. We can create our own innovative solutions and ideas and policies if only given the autonomy to lead. Um, well, there's a policy actually. We were talking a while ago in Galimpook that there was really a policy. There's a problem in the synchronization of policy. There were three problems really: the national policies, and then the resources, of course, and of course that there's no dichotomy between health and business. That was explained to us by no other than Mr. Charlie Yu. So, and also Senator Bam Aquino. Oh, by the way, I would like to announce that the covered court that was shown a while ago was the covered court given to us by Senator Bam Aquino. So thank you, Senator Bam, na utilize namin as our one of the facilities in Iriga. So one thing that I've noticed was that there's no synchronization of the policy. Right now, we're having problems with swab testing because here in Bicol region we don't have we had two swab test laboratories, but all are defective already because probably of everyday use. So
when you say defective, talagang sinabing it's not usable anymore?
yeah, it's not
So wala
functioning.
na. No?
So
There's no more.
wala na kami, Ma'am Marisa. And our problem is we bring our specimen to Pampanga and to Tacloban, to your place. And only 65 specimen is allocated every day to Bicol region. So imagine 65 specimen will be divided among the 7 provinces here in Bicol region. So that's our dilemma. And second dilemma was there's a new memorandum circular that was given by the Department of Health that even level 1 hospital can now cater COVID patients. However, the ano po, yung dating policy, level 1 is not capacitated to cater COVID patients. So it's only level 2 hospitals. But since probably it's all exhausted, everything is being used, wala nang available, there's no more available rooms. Now there's a sudden shift of policy. So now even level 1 can cater now, even if they are not capacitated. They did not even train the nurses and the doctors. So that's another dilemma. Again, we have another problem with the LSIs. I am not in opposition of the idea of allowing the locally stranded people to go home. However, sana naman binigyan nila ng stringent policy, like sana pinag-swab test, then after swab test, at least if it's negative,
bago ipadala.
bago pinadala. Kasi ang problem, since there's no swab test, we don't even know if the medical certificate is, the veracity of the medical certificate. That's a problem. Pagdating, ngayon nagpa-positive. Buti na lang, we have a quarantine facility and almost all of those positive patients that we had are all came from the quarantine
LSIs.
facility. So what if hindi mo pinag-quarantine, pinag-home quarantine mo na lang at nag-positive siya? So ang problem naman is how to lock down the barangay. And it happened to us, and it's really difficult to lock down a certain barangay. Imagine not only one barangay, but it covers 3 barangays because of the neighboring barangay also. So yun ang pinakamahirap. That was our first case. So sabi ko, no, we have to be strict with the quarantine facility. Then, of course, our resources are depleted na. Instead of, we were allowed by the DBM that we can realign some of our infra,
Funds, yes.
yeah, some of our funds. But we don't know how long will this take. Ang dami natin pinapakain. We usually accept 150 to 200 locally stranded individuals per week.
Per week,
And,
ha?
yes, per week. So, ang pinakamadaming influx is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So that's 200 LSIs. So sometimes we feed them every day. So sometimes we feed 800 people. So that's
Day.
the problem. Yes, 800 people a day. Not only 800 people, but of course, syempre, the health workers also. And now we have another dilemma going on that our neighboring municipality has local transmission already. It's the transmission is very rampant. So we cannot lock down, or we cannot close the checkpoint or the border because of the MGTQ policy. So, but we have no choice but to accept them, and then go to the hospitals. And then right now, there was a positive patient in one of the hospitals here, so we have no choice but to close down also the hospital, because there are 30 health workers who are exposed.
When you mean closed down, hindi na siya operational?
Yeah, hindi siya operational, but partial portion of that only, as far as the rooms muna are concerned. But yung dialysis center, you cannot close it, you cannot shut it down, because there are
other patients that
yes,
require,
so it's
yes,
partial lockdown. So it always happens like that right now because of the rampant transmission brought by the LSIs. So sabi ko nga, if only the national government, sabi ko nga, we have distorted policies like the back riding, di ba? Sabi nila, bawal ang back riding and all that. And they have this press release, the ILG and IITF, they had this press release that, oh yeah, back riding is not allowed. But apparently, we are waiting for the memorandum,
IRR.
Yes, IRR, to be given by the IITF. So how can we implement? So the problem now is we are being blamed by our constituents by not implementing the policy, the press release that they have given, the policy that they have released. So palaging biniblame ang local government. The same with the SAP. Sasabihin nila, lahat mabibigyan. And now it's very limited. They have this IRR na hindi naman pala lahat. So LGU na naman ang i-blame. So those are the experiences and the dilemmas that we are facing right now. But since sabi ko nga, we're local government, we have no choice but to survive. So we have to move on. So we have to innovate and we have to look for solutions. So, yan ang maganda naman sa local government unit. So, the same with Coro.
Okay, Mayor Madel, I'll get back to you on that, no, because we're looking forward to an exchange between the three of speakers that we have today. Again, bear in mind that we have a wider audience now. This is the opportunity for you to actually share the voice of the countryside, share your experiences. We are hoping also to learn from you. At the same time, we would also like to get an insight, no, a deeper insight on what is happening in the rural areas. Before I present our next speaker later on in the discussion, just for you to think about now, no, the most pressing matters that we need to look at: hunger. Did you ever experience hunger in your area? Livelihood, work. What is it like? No, these are the basic things. The numbers, your stats, what are they like? Maybe you can share with us how you are controlling them. And as I've said, our partners, the Inquirer, we are now live on inquirer.net, the Inquirer Foundation, and the subscribers, INQ subscription, the Philippine Daily Inquirer. This is your audience to be able to express the thoughts and concerns, issues that you'd like us, or where we can actually help, you know, as here in Manila, or the whole of the country that's listening to you today. So I guess with that, I present now our next presenter. I'll get back to you, Mayor Madel and Vice Mayor Coro. Our next speaker, I first met him when he was not even a public official, but he was very passionate about good governance already at that time. He's been a councilor of Iloilo City prior to becoming the mayor of his hometown of Lambunao, and is now a board member of the province of Iloilo. Very, I would say, long list of achievements at a very young age. He is among them is being a global fellow of the Eisenhower Fellowship Program. He is also known as a Pinoy icon and a Melchora Aquino awardee for civic work during his term as municipal mayor. And of course, he's also a Kaya Natin champion and very passionate about his work to provide good governance, to encourage good governance in the countryside. So let's hear from him today on the experiences of his province in Iloilo and maybe his municipality also. From Lambunao, board member Jason Gonzales.
Marisa, good afternoon. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. So I'll go straight to my presentation. I-share ko lang siya, and nabanggit ni Marisa bago nito na kung pwede ba naming i-share yung data, no? So I'll go straight to it. Ang province of Iloilo has a population of around a little more than 2 million. And kung kasama ang Iloilo City, we're looking at around 2.5 million. And itong nakaraan sa probinsya ng Iloilo, ang number of infected namin according to DOH data, 390, no? 362 of that has already recovered and 1 fatality. And just today, naging 2 na. And yung pangalawa is my uncle, no? Who happens to be a punong barangay of our town in Lambunao. So, if you look at the figures, no, we have a population of around 2 million. And kung iisipin mo na parang kaunti lang naman yung infected na 390 and recovered na yung 362. But the economic damage that it has inflicted on the province and the region has been immense. Kasi ang tanong ngayon is, ano ba yung naging epekto at paano natin sinusukat yung naging epekto ng COVID? So, let's start with inflation rate. The data that I am citing right now is a combination not only of NEDA data but also DTI. So, right now, ang nakikita natin is yung inflation rate, and affected dito most of all is alcoholic beverages, tobacco, narcotics. This is for Region 6 alone, no? And among the food items, though, inflation was recorded for rice due to ample supply. So, hindi naman nagkukulang yung bigas because of the onset of the second or third harvest season and availability of imported rice. So, tingnan mo dito, ano pa yung ibang mga tumaas? Yung figure po natin dito sa kaliwa, yung light blue is last year's number and yung dark blue is this year's number, no? So, ang laki nung tinaas. So, when we look at furnishings and household equipment, dito sa pangalawa, it rose from 1.9 to 5.8. And so on, no? Kung makikita natin, almost all items, commodities, umakyat ang presyo nitong COVID. Ang hindi lang umakyat, surprisingly, ang sa food and non-alcoholic beverages, hindi bumaba pa, no? But the rest, apart from yun, sa restaurants, goods, and other services. So key points lang. So non-food items, which include communication, recreation, and culture, had higher inflation rates. And in transport subsector, recorded the biggest decline in inflation rate due to the drop of oil prices in the world market. The ECQ affected agricultural production and access to agricultural products and limited the mobility of farmer and farm workers to engage in agricultural activities. At the national level, ang agriculture rose by 1.3%, no? So it was one of the sectors na umangat pa nitong panahon ng COVID. Ito yung masakit, no? Trabaho. This is for Region 6. Yung employment as of April 2020 decreased by 9.5% from 95.2 in April 2019 to 86.3. Yung mahalaga dito, kasi this translated to an estimated 500,000 individuals having no work due to the imposition of lockdown in the middle of March 2020. This is Region 6 data alone. So sa Region 6, ganito karami yung nawalan ng trabaho. A total of 23,974 MSME establishments closed their operations either partially or totally as of April 30, 2020, based on a survey conducted by DTI. Dito sa 23,974 na negosyo na nagsarado, na easily 95% of these are micro and small businesses. Kakaunti lang naman ang medium-sized na businesses. So ang naghihirap talaga ngayon is yung mga maliliit na negosyo, and of course this translates into jobs. So in Western Visayas, 54% of businesses across various sectors temporarily closed, 34% remained open but had limited operations. So 1% permanently closed their business and 11% remained open throughout. Yung food industry was adversely affected during the quarantine because of transport restrictions, prohibition of dine-in operations, and increase in the cost of raw materials. Dito sa Iloilo, kakaluwag lang po. So ang mga restaurants today sa Iloilo City in particular are allowing for 70% na occupancy na of restaurants. So in terms of employment, 34% of the firms across sectors reduced working hours. So yung madami dyan, from 5 days or 6 days, bumaba to half. So many of them reduced up to half yung working hours ng mga tao nila. And yung mga naririnig naming kwento from the ground is marami sa kanila, they do it to make their business survive, and pangalawa, para at least hindi lahat ng empleyado mawalan ng trabaho. So madami sa kanila nagka-cut ng hours to save jobs. So most of the establishments that laid off workers were from the tourism and accommodation sectors at 61%, followed by the food industry, food service industry at 14%. So yung mga hotels, kung titingnan mo, most of them are closed, although many hotels in Iloilo right now are being used as part of the quarantine facilities, no, of the city and the province. So tourism has been adversely affected. Mabigat yung tama. So tourist arrivals for the first 3 months of the year, no, decreased by more than half, or 57.3% compared to last year, same quarter. And from March 17, April to April 30, 2020, an estimated 19 billion in tourism receipts expected from around 875 tourists in the region was lost. About the bulk of this came from Boracay. Kasi syempre, parang sa Surigao din to kay Vice Mayor Coro, na sobrang apektado ang mga lugar na dependent on tourism, whether domestic or foreign tourism. Kasi pag walang turista na inaasahan ng mga negosyo, syempre, wala ding kita. So, additional points, no, the region recorded lower exports by 28.7% and imports by 38%. Given na ang top 5 exports of Region 6 for the first quarter include coal, and this comes mainly from Antique, Philippine rocaine sugar, tapos frozen squid, instant herbal teas, and cut foliage. So, ano naman sa on the security front, no, on peace and order. Interestingly, for Iloilo, there is a reduction, although this is before pa ng COVID, no, may reduction in crime rate year on year for the first quarter from 2019 to 2020. For the municipality of Lambunaw, we were one of the early responders, no? So as early as February 12, yung bayan already convened the punong barangays to discuss interventions and preparations for the pandemic, no? And ang Lambunaw unfortunately also recorded the first case of COVID in the province of Iloilo and the first death. So sa bayan namin ito, and RHU or the MHO was prepared, and the town was prepared. So even yung bahay, because there were 5 infected individuals in one home. So isang pamilya, they were all infected. Tapos the LGU made the transition easier. So tumulong yung LGU sa pagdadala ng pagkain dun sa pamilya kasi walang makalabas galing sa bahay nila because they were all under quarantine. Unfortunately, part of the story that needs to be told is yung bahay na yun, yung pamilya suffered discrimination kasi may nambabato. So we quickly addressed it, no, through security measures. At the same time, panawagan sa mga tao na to exercise compassion and understanding in this situation. So I think it is important that communities face these problems together and publicly and explicitly. So ito talagang public call para sa mga tao na intindihin yung sitwasyon. Kasi masakit yun na na to be discriminated upon because you turned out positive. So this is our quarantine center in partnership with the national school, no, national public school in National High School in Nambunaw, na yung aming quarantine center, quarantine facility namin is may free wifi, may radyo, may TV, tapos pwede ka pa maka-order ng pagkain. So this was held in the province. Part of the strategies in addressing this really is transparency. So part of what we do is a real-time monitoring ng cases and announcing it to the public. So alam nila, basically, every time a new case comes in, it is monitored daily and updated real-time. Yung response ng buong community was there. So nakita namin yung pagtutulungan ng police, ng barangay, ng mga tanods. So the whole community, it was a whole of town approach in addressing the pandemic. So for the province naman, ang kwento kasi sa Iloilo, medyo ano to it has been a constant struggle with the national government, no, when it comes to issuances, when it comes to orders. Kasi yung isang na-issue sa Iloilo na siya lang daw hindi nagpapabalik ng mga LSIs, which is untrue. As long as certain conditions are met, pinapayagan naman ng governor namin. And just recently, our governor said na he was willing to seek a compromise after the DILG nixed the RT-PCR testing as a requirement for the repatriation of LSIs to the province. So this is parang it is a trend now that we've seen in the province of Iloilo, because we have strong leaders in our governor and in the city mayor of Iloilo itself, no, na meron minsang friction with the national government. So the DILG hails Iloilo's COVID-19 relief assistance. This refers particularly dun sa pamimili ng mga local produce, just like Mayor Mads, no, na yung binibigay na tulong sa mga tao is binibili galing din sa mga magsasaka ng Iloilo. And for this particular tranche, if I'm not mistaken, the provincial government allocated 8.7 million for the program to sustain the local economy by providing income to farmers. So sa kanila binibili, and ito din yung pinamimigay. Iloilo province also gives counseling to residents. Based on the data that I have here from the Iloilo Provincial Police Office, yung suicide cases for this year, particularly during the time of COVID, is already 28. And that's a lot, no? Kasi given that we have one official death so far in the province of Iloilo and 2 as of today, pero ang suicide cases mo is easily 14 times the death rate ng COVID. So it is something that we need to address. So the provincial government through the PSWDO is providing counseling services, especially to teens and overseas Filipino workers, to caution yung mental impact of the quarantine. So ang Iloilo also seeks the extension of use of classrooms for quarantine facilities. Tapos these are the regulatory and legislative assistance na binibigay for the pandemic. No, I won't go through them one by one. For Iloilo City naman, the mayor has been an exemplary model in the city itself, no, in terms of COVID response. And Mayor Jerry Tenas has been covered on national media for his performance in this pandemic, no. And some of the key interventions that he instituted was yung community kitchens, which served 1.9 million meals and located in 240 different locations. So there was a deep sense of urgency coming from the city mayor, and yung mass testing is continuously being conducted in the city of Iloilo. Ito nga yung nabigay nila, 1.9 million meals, 69,000 sacks of rice, 30,000 canned goods, and around 6,600 boxes of noodles. And yung kinikilala dito is yung role ng community. Ang Iloilo City has been always a model in terms of public-private partnerships, how to activate the civic sector, civil society, and the business sector in terms of soliciting help in times of crisis. So ang Iloilo, ang daming tumutulong. So papasalamat to ng city government and the rest of the city. So these are some, and Iloilo City is eyeing a COVID lab operation by mid-September. So these are some of the interventions at those 3 levels, at the province level, at the municipal level, dun sa bayan namin, and of course, sa Iloilo City being the capital of the province of Iloilo. So that's it, Marisa.
Thank you very much for that informative presentation, Jason. You said something that captured my attention talaga. But we'll get back to that. No, you mentioned suicide. Medyo nakakatakot yata yung word na yun. But before that, let me just run this by our three speakers, no? Vice Mayor Coro, Mayor Mads, and Jason. The key issue, ang number one kinatatakutan ng tao, your words on gutom, hunger. You know, what do you think, or are you facing as an LGU now when it comes to the issue of first hunger, maybe up to the next 6 or maybe up to end of the year? Anong nakikita nyo on that field? Second, hanap buhay, work, because parang by that time it's like 75% of the year dumaan na ng ganito ang sitwasyon natin. So I guess I start off with Vice Mayor Coro on those two issues first, hunger and livelihood.
Thank you, Madam. First, again, to my co-panelists, Mayor Mads and Mayor Jason, it's an honor to be with the panel with you. So, in terms of hunger, of course, talagang na siya, at risk. Because yung problema, it's related to your livelihood, your ability to pay. Even though we are encouraging people to plant or grow their own food, I mean, hindi naman pwedeng gulay kakainin mo araw-araw for the next 6 months, di ba? So, nandun yung risk. Pangalawa, yung risk of transporting food. Yung supply we are very dependent, yung mga municipalities and provinces, they're very dependent with each other. So, you get rice from Agusan, then you get your meat from Cagayan de Oro or Davao, then fruits from Davao. So, if you put restrictions on the mobility of these goods, kahit ano pang sabihin ng national government, there will always be that risk. So since may risk, siyempre maglalagay ka ng protocols. Pag ako negosyante, ba't ako pupunta sa'yo? Dami-dami mong parang hinaharang mo yung lahat. So kaya ko naman ibenta to ng Davao region lang. So yun yung mga ganong consideration. So you have to look at it in the totality. Hindi lang yung isa, but how this will impact everything. So pagdating sa livelihood, kagaya nga na sinabi ni Mayor Jason, yari kami kasi we're tourism-centric.
Yes.
So pagbagsak ng tourism, bagsak lahat. So how do you now encourage people to visit you? And when do you actually open? And will they have the confidence to actually stay with you? So we have to start innovating. So I'm part of the group that's looking into the recovery strategy for Surigao del Norte and Surigao. So we're looking into different modes na. So one is long-term tourist. Forget short-term. I mean, you have to look into temporary relocations. The experience now with the families, we did a lot of interviews with tourists, and they want to move to certain tropical locations.
Sir, what do you, when you say tourist, parang migration? Parang temporary
parang migration,
resident?
Temporary, 3 months, 6 months, ganun ang dapat yung tinitingnan mo. Kasi if you're looking at short-term visits, imposible yan eh. With all the protocols, and if it's gonna be part of the new normal, considering wala pa namang na-eradicate na virus sa mundo, di ba? Kasama na natin tong si COVID sa buhay natin eh. In our lifetime, magiging kasama natin to. So you have to design your livelihood strategy in that context. You have to look into, kaya ngayon, di ba? I mean, ICT is another strategy. ICT. We have to strengthen ICT. And we have to start creating jobs around that frame. So how do you now retool or reskill your people towards that frame?
Sir, di ba na-mention niyo po yung interdependence? That's very interesting. Interdependence with other LGUs for your requirements. Isla kayo, sir. So medyo nakakaba siguro, baka hindi makarating sa inyo yung mga needs niyo.
That is true. That is true. So that's why we focused on the rice. To distribute kami initially, because we had a problem with proper distribution, yung entry ng goods. So staple food yung uunahin mo. Ano yung staple food? Rice. Pag masarap yung kanin, parang pwede na. Asin na lang o ano, basta may makain. Di ba? I mean, you have to make sacrifices. At the end of the day, you have to make sacrifices. We are still figuring out, everyone's still trying to figure out what to do in the next 6 months. We survived for the first 6, but if this will continue up to next year, up to June when the vaccines will be released, then you're looking at another 2 to 3 years before we actually start recovering. So how do you plan for the next 2 to 3 years?
Sino ang kasama niyo, sir, dito? Sabi niyo you're part of a group that's looking at the recovery. What is the composition of this group? Is it like multi-sector?
It's multi-sectoral. This is the province-wide. So, tinitingnan namin, we have the business sector, we have even the religious sector. Kasama silang lahat. I mean, any input, even external potential investors, what can you bring to us? What can we offer you? So, kasama na yung even the policies, we are retooling the investment incentive codes just to get people in. I mean, you have to bring in fresh capital kasi sino bang may capital ngayon? Do you look at it national lang? Do you want to look at it international? Are you willing to accept Chinese investments? You have to be realistic at some point. Diba? Kasi that is our role in the local government. That's why you're there. You have to think for them because sometimes they're overwhelmed.
What is the statistics now, sir? Anong stats natin sa COVID ngayon? Diyan sa Surigao Islands.
Sa Surigao and Surigao del Norte, we're very proud to share with everybody that as of today, wala na kaming COVID positive patient. So, kakagraduate lang. Tapos lahat ng tinest kahapon negative. So, we're very happy. But, so this morning, we're also considering another short-term border lockdown. Because a lot of our borders are increasing in their COVID cases and we want to help out in their ability to do contact tracing. So, pag pinigilan mo yung mobility, madaling mag-contact trace. That's why every border lockdown, it's around 14 days. Laging ganun yung cycle mo. Kasi by that time, kung walang gagalaw, dapat wala na yung virus according to the science. So, importante is the quarantine talaga. I mean, people would stay at home.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, let me move on to Mayor Mads. 2 issues, ma'am. Gutom. Hunger, did they experience? I saw your vegetable on wheels. Very impressive. Ang daming kumopya. And second, hanap buhay. Between now and December.
Thank you. Actually, yung veggies on wheels, na-conceptualize yun because of the typhoon. Yun nga sabi ko, God is really good. Maybe if you really have good intentions, everything just fall into its proper place and places. Last December, nag-typhoon kami. Then that was New Year. Then after that, sabi ko, nako, food security will be an issue. So what we did was, we planted talaga. We gave free free seeds. Lahat tumulong kami, even sa rice, even po sa corn, everything, even po sa pigs, hog growing. So, lahat yun tulong kami. And then comes March, nag-pandemic. Good thing na nagtanim talaga at nag-grow talaga yung mga farmers natin because comes pandemic, sufficient talaga yung food. So, we have no problem with the food. So, sabi ko, maganda pala yung cycle na ganon. You have to encourage everyone to plant, to hog raising, free home range chicken. So all of that, you really have to encourage everyone. And until now, apparently, food is not really an issue here. Meron pa rin. Kumbaga, it's sufficient until December. But I agree with Mayor Coro na you really have to look at in the prospective. Tingnan natin by next year because COVID will stay until probably kahit may vaccine. COVID will be part of our lives already. So, God is really good also because when it comes to livelihood and employment, it just so happened na we are enhancing our economic enterprises and we're almost finished with our ICT and hopefully it will be functional by October. And so the second floor is the working space and plug and that's yun ang palagi ko nakakalimutan, plug and something wherein alam mo yun Mayor Coro, yung plug and play. Yeah, plug and play. Yeah, plug and play and then they can rent the second floor and then the third floor will be call center and this is the first time that the city will run the call center. So the income will papasok yung income sa city. And we are also building our new amusement park. So pwede kaming makakuha ng 1,500 employment for that. Almost all of those people na nag-exodus and LSIs are carpenters, masonry, mga ganun po. So yun po talaga, magkakaroon talaga sila ng trabaho right now. And the construction of the amusement park will take probably 6 months to 1 year. So at least, and after noon, pag mag-function yung amusement park, we will be probably creating 1,000, 1,500 employment. The same goes with ICT. If 3 shiftings, that's 1,000 also. At least some of those OFWs that were repatriated and displaced, at least they have the opportunity also to work. So by probably October and November. So yeah, we're trying so hard, and then we have livelihood programs with partnership with TESDA. Nabibigla ako, ang daming nag-e-enroll. So diskarte talaga. Diskarte lang talaga.
So do you subsidize that, Mayor Madel, yung mga enrollees sa TESDA?
Actually, it's free from TESDA, but
okay,
yung ano po nila, yung the materials and the equipment that they will use para po pagkatapos nila mag-graduate, meron silang puhunan, isusubsidize po yun ng government.
So face-to-face ito. This training is face-to-face.
Opo, let's face blended.
Blended education na.
And then mag-ano din po, what's this?
Online.
Online. So, apparently, yun po yung sa recovery plan po namin. Kasi we created also a recovery committee and then composed of the various sectors. So yun po, apparently, yun po yung recovery phase po namin, recovery plans and recovery phase for Iriga City for COVID pandemic. So naaawa lang po talaga ako because of the 8.8 starvation of the entire Philippines and the 26% of the small economic enterprises or small enterprises nagsara, it shut down, nag-close talaga siya. Pero fortunately, some of the businesses here talagang wala pong nagko-close. Every time that the business sector will ask me, meron na bang nagsara? Sabi ko, awan ng Diyos, wala pa din po.
Pati restaurants, I mean including restaurants, they're all operational. Oh, very good.
Siguro probably the advantage is they're not renting it. They own their own place. So that's one of the advantages also. And also, yeah, tama si Mayor Coro about the influx din, yung transport ng kasi we have ASF right now, di ba po? And pero nabigla din po ako. Fortunately, hindi na nag-lockdown ang slaughterhouse namin. But nagtaka ako because usually nag-butcher kami ng mga pigs for about 30 to 40 a day. But now, nagwa 100 to 130 a day. So tumaas siya. So sabi ko,
interesting.
What? Yeah, very interesting.
So yung pera may pambili.
Yes, meron.
Kasi mataas ang the demand is high, so there is money.
Yeah, yun nga po eh. So nagtataka ako because sabi ko, ba't tumaas? Ba't naging 100 to 130? Although, di ba, may recession, we're experiencing the first phase of recession, but still the demand is high. Even yung poultry, grabe rin po yung demand ng poultry. So,
magandang i-trace back yun. Magandang pag-aralan yun kung bakit ganun. Di ba? Ibig sabihin,
I want to make a study out of it.
Capable ang tao bumili in Iriga, which is a very good thing. Okay, let me move on to board member Jason Gonzales. I looked at your figures. Parang, after having worked very closely with the municipalities of Iloilo, because logic area ang Iloilo parang Surigao del Norte, and nakakapanghina yung mga figures ng nawalan ng trabaho. But it's true, I can attest to the very active civil society involvement in Iloilo and the private sector. So sir, back to yung dalawa, gutom at saka hanap buhay, let's say up to end of the year. Anong
sa gutom side, I can only speak for my town and for the neighboring towns na nakakausap ko yung mga leaders. Surprisingly, yung gutom hindi ganun kalaking issue. Ang Iloilo province is the rice granary and the food bowl ng buong region, ng buong Panay, no. We produce a big part of our own rice. So hindi kami nagka-problema doon. To give you an example, yung bayan ng Bingawan, which is the farthest municipality in Central Panay sa Iloilo, no. Nagkaroon sila ng multiple cases na sabay-sabay. So they had to lock down the town for 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, complete lockdown. And I talked to the board member na kasama ko sa provincial board, who's a former mayor. Sabi ko, hindi ba nagka-problema sa pagkain na sinara niya yung borders niyo for 2 weeks? Alam mo, sabi niya, hindi nagka-problema sa pagkain. And I think this points to the self-sufficiency of some of the towns. And at the very least, a big part kasi ng supply also comes from within the province itself. Now, may isang malaking strength 'yun eh. Pero it also needs to be said na a big part of our food also comes from outside. Pero kung magkatulakan talaga, ang Iloilo can produce its own. That's my view. Kaya hindi ganun ka naging malaking issue, at least in the towns, in the municipalities, yung gutom. Now, sa tingin ko kasi, ang kailangan tingnan dito sa gutom is, ang focus ng LGU, kung ikaw yung mayor, you make sure that production is steady or even to raise it up. So, mayors should make sure na yung production sa bayan nila at karatig bayan has to be raised. Now, second is you have to look at the supply chains eh. Kung ano yung mga hindi nyo nag-grow on your own, tapos reliant kayo, you have to make sure that the supply chains are not broken. And this involves a higher level coordination, like yung sinasabi kanina ni Vice Mayor Cors, na kailangan to pag-usapan at the provincial and then regional levels. And kailangan talaga ma-identify and ma-dissect properly na talagang surgical precision yung identification ng mga supply chains na yan. So that is what will help ensure yung food supply until December, until next year. Alam mo yun, until time immemorial, to make it permanent. Kasi if there's one thing that this pandemic has shown us, naniniwala ako na ang food and agriculture industry natin, food sector, can be improved after this eh. In fact, yun na nga yung point na lumaki siya ng 1.3% nitong panahon ng pandemya, points to that fact. Sa bayan ng Lambunaw, yung mga farmers namin, particularly the ones that we're working with directly, they're called champion farmers. Sumali kami sa Kadiwa on Wheels, and many of them were supported because sobrang na-localize yung food chain, yung value chain ng food, dahil yung mga produkto ng mga farmers were sold directly to subdivisions in Iloilo City. So cutting out the middleman. So yung naging effect sa mga farmers namin, in fact, hanggang ngayon, we are servicing 2 subdivisions in Iloilo City where we deal directly with members of the homeowners associations and hinahatid sa kanila directly yung food.
Now, so via HOA, sir, yung logistics niyo.
Yes.
So they organize their own demand and then from you deliver them.
Yes. Yung farmers group naman kasi that we're working with, meron ng sariling truck. So yung truck niya, diretso dinadala doon yung produkto. Now, imagine expanding this model 100 times around the city. Yeah. Na nilolocalize mo talaga yung food supply, na hindi mo na kinukuha yung, especially yung mga basic commodities mo, food staples mo, yung mga gulay mo, hindi mo na kinukuha from outside of the province, no? Ito yung kung familiar kayo sa konsepto ng slow food, no? 'Di ba may fast food. Na normally ang kwento nga sa US, ang orange juice na iniinom mo travels on average 2,000 miles to get to your table. So, and yung fast food na binibili natin, many of them foreign ingredients pa or bought from abroad. Kung binibili locally ang food, ang laki ng epekto. So, yun yung slow food instead of fast food. Now, sa issue naman ng employment, no, I think this is, apart from the health situation, ito yung pinakamalaking hamon na hinaharap ng Pilipino. Dito na lang sa Region 6 and even in Iloilo, the figures are the same. No? Roughly 30% of all businesses have closed. Hindi natin alam kung permanent or temporary, but I suspect that many of them are permanently closed. No? And nahirapan ako imaginein kung paano ka kasi babawi in that situation. Dito ang dating sandalan kasi natin are OFWs. But this pandemic has affected everyone. Na yung typical na sinasandalan ng pamilyang Pilipino, which is OFW remittances, has gone away to a large extent. Ito, nakaraan lang yung balita, ang numbers nag-range from 400 to 600,000 OFWs na umuwi. So can you imagine, these are members of the emerging middle class na all of a sudden balik naman sa below the poverty line. And ang hirap bumawi kasi pag nawala yun yung income na inaasahan mo 10,000, 15,000 buwan-buwan na matutunaw, no? So dito sa Iloilo, when I think of interventions on how to do this, lahat ng kwentuhan tungkol sa ekonomiya, uuwi pa rin sa consumer confidence. Ang mga tao ba are confident enough that I will still have a job next month, next year, in order to spend the little money that I have? So how do you restore consumer confidence? The challenge is economic, but the solution is still medical.
Yes.
Na ang binibigay kong example nito is yung example ng kakambal ko na nasa Dubai. Nagkikwento siya na all government offices in Dubai, libre ang testing. And yung private testing that happens, which can be availed of by anyone, costs only around 700 pesos. So punta ka dun sa mga testing centers na nakakalat sa buong syudad. Lapit ka dun, patest ka, within 3 hours, may ibang facilities less than 1 hour, lalabas na. So can you imagine yung impact sa syudad nun? Yung impact niya is that people are confident to go around because they know that they've been tested. Kasi yung mga taong nagpa-test na nag-positive, hindi yan na mag-iikot Nasa bahay na yan. So it gives you a big measure of confidence na yung mga taong naglalakad in public are not infected. Because of the fast, reliable na testing
and
procedure. And affordable.
Yes.
Now, these are big interventions that can be done by large cities with lots of budgets. Pero pag maliliit na bayan, it's still a challenge. Kaya nga, ang isang suggestion na lumabas na narinig ko is yung putting up of testing centers na mas mas granular, no? Pwedeng district level or clustered towns. Na kung yung mga congressmen are willing to spend for it. Alam ko si Mayor Mad, may katrabaho siyang diagnostic na lab na nagpapagawa na sila ng sariling testing center. Because I was able to attend one forum recently and the package was something like 40 million and they can do, yung capacity nila is 5,000 tests a day. So ang galing nun, no? For 40 million, and yung 40 million na yun, it's all consumable at 3,000 per test. And yung 3,000 per test translates into 13,300 tests. So yung lang, no? Parang I think that is the direction that we should be going in. Kasi right now, hindi natin pwedeng ihiwalay yung ekonomiya at saka kalusugan. They are inseparable. Kasi madaming
hand in hand.
Yes, they hand in hand. But it has to start from the medical before it can go to the economic. Kaya nga, yung mga leaders, mahalaga na may ganitong klaseng pagtingin na how do we restore consumer confidence? And this is something that city mayors, municipal mayors, governors, everywhere have to think. And unfortunately, because of the slow response from the national government, many local governments right now are forced to fend for themselves. Na ang iniisip talaga nila is amin na lang. How do we come up with interventions based on our resources, based on existing budgets, based on what we have? So,
pero parang hindi totally disadvantageous yun. Let me bridge that to a question. We have a question here, no, that was sent in by one of our participants, which relates to that. You mentioned it, Vice Mayor Coro mentioned it, and Mayor Mads mentioned it, the relationship of the LGUs and the national government. Kasi kung mag-aantay, as you've said, sir, baka mamaya you have to act even faster. So the question goes, what lessons in governance can you share in addressing the disconnect between the national government and the local government units in terms of policies, protocols, for complex challenges such as this, such as the COVID-19 pandemic? So tinatanggap na ng tao na may disconnect. No, because that's where the question is being addressed. So how do you actually, what lessons can you share to bridge that? No? Siguro, nandyan ka na, Mayor, Board Member Jason, maybe you go ahead.
What we have seen here in Iloilo is yung friction kasi sometimes nanggagaling dun sa protocols and standards. So that's one. Yung isang pinagagalingan niya is kung tatanggapin ba ng probinsya, tatanggapin ba ng bayan o ng syudad, ano yung protocols dun sa LSI na nanggaling sa Manila, pag alis niya doon at saka pagbalik niya dito. And sa akin kasi, parang isang example right now is yung demand ng Iloilo for PCR testing bago tumanggap. Tapos sinabi naman ng IATF na hindi daw. So ngayon magne-negotiate yung aming governor when it comes to that.
So paano nangyari nun, sir? Let me stop you there. So meron tayong standstill? Kasi
hindi pa ako nakakuha ng latest update on that. I haven't spoken to the governor kung ano nga yung mangyayari. Pero yun, that's a clear conflict, no? Kasi yung requirements ng province and yung dinidemand ng national magkaiba. I understand yung iba-iba kasi ang governing styles ng bawat probinsya at bawat syudad. Kasi may mga mayor at saka governor na stick to, merong hindi, no? So pagka nagkaroon ng friction at that level, magandang tanong and wala akong sagot na malinaw. Pero ang masasabi ko lang dito na ang mga mayors and governors are always expected to look out for the best interests of their people. So ang tinitingnan mo dyan, ibabalance mo nga minsan kasi ang tanong is tatanggap ba tayo ng LSIs na hindi na test? Alam mo yun, malaking tanong yun. And again, wala akong madaling sagot dun sa ano na yun. Pero sa akin, kung ako yung mayor, hindi na ako mayor ngayon eh, pero kung ako yung mayor, I will stand by what I think is best for my locality.
Tama naman yun. Because of it.
I think si Vice Mayor Coro, who was a 3-term mayor and still right now, very much active in his LGU, tsaka si Mayor Mads will have better answers to that question.
Yes, having said that, segue ko lang, being formerly the ED of the League of Municipalities, talagang the mayors have to look out for their constituents first and foremost kasi tatay sila at nanay sila ng kanilang mga bayan. So, I guess, Vice Mayor Coro, anong opinion po ninyo dyan? Disconnect.
Disconnect, yes. Similar with Mayor Jason, experience ng Iloilo, ganun din kami. Kasi sa gateway to Mindanao, parang lahat ng movement ng tao, pag land-based, sa amin dadaan. Diretso yan, from Leyte, from your town, and to Surigao. So we were very strict. And in fact, parang naging best friend na namin yung national government dahil sa very strict policies. But it is those policies that people responded to. Kasi nakikita nga nila, wala kaming cases. That's why they supported those policies. So, yung disconnect, there are opportunities naman to negotiate. But at the end of the day, at the local government code gives us the power of autonomy. Yun ang binabalikan namin.
Let me go back there, sir, before we lose the thought. Ang sabi niyo gives you the avenue to negotiate with whom?
IATF, the Office of the President. So marami namang, there are a lot of communication channels, yes. But you can always negotiate. For example, there's a new advisory from DILG na wala nang testing na gagawin sa LSI. Pagdating sa'yo, ikaw ang magpapa-RT-PCR. Paano mo gagawin yun kung wala kang RT-PCR capacity? Di ba? So, syempre, hindi namin susundin yung order na yun. Kasi pag sinunod namin yun, yari kami. So, in defying that, our governor was very open naman and transparent with our mayors. So, inopen niya yan. Sabi niya, ito yung gusto kong gawin, okay ba kayo? And that's the good thing within the local governments, within the province and the mayors, in regular communication, there is one voice. And in Caraga, one of the best practices sa regional level is we have the One Caraga Shield. So, one voice lagi ang region namin. So, pag sinabi ng region na ito yung gagawin, yun yung gagawin namin lahat. And we defend each other. So, since merong one voice, madaling mag-negotiate sa national government pagdating sa mga polisiya. Of course, even within your region, sometimes you have your own conflicts. But that can be discussed because iniisa naman objective nyo eh. It's how you protect on a regional level.
Interesting yun, sir. Yung One Caraga Shield, did that exist before? Or did you put that together because of COVID?
It was designed for COVID talaga. It's one of the best practices on a regional level. So nag-uusap yung mga governors, madali yung usapan, the border controls, pinag-uusapan, identification of alin yung mga regional checkpoints. So how we respond, parang yun nga, one region ang response. So pag kulang ka sa resources, you can always negotiate. So maraming avenues for negotiating. Yun naman importante, you have open communication from within your group to your external potential stakeholders, up to the national level. Basta marami lang usapan.
Multi-sector din po siya.
Multi-sector din.
May
Pag
business, may
may
CSO.
business, CSO, may regional offices. But the bottom line, yung leadership talaga, governors.
The governors are the ones, the conveners, no?
Yes, they convene, then yung governors, they talk to their mayors. So lagi may consensus. So
Maganda yan.
Yung usapan, when you start negotiating with the IATF, parang regional yung sumusuport sa'yo. So lumalaki yung yung level of
voice,
support.
No?
Yes.
Tsaka lumalakas yung boses, no? Because
yes,
taken into consideration yung local scenario before bringing it up.
Yes. In fact, Butuan, ngayon, nag-declare sila ng 40 barangays under MECQ. Localized na yun. I mean, regional na lang yung mag-declare kasi nandun sa policy ng IATF. So, supported yan. Basta sumusupport yung mga governor, nagagawa ng paraan. That's why yung relationships within your region, within your province, towards national, kailangan, tuloy-tuloy lang yung communication.
Very good. I think that's very good practice na pwedeng i-share sa iba. Let me go now to Mayor Madel. Medyo na-disturb ako doon na ang magte-test sa Bicol pero yung resulta manggagaling sa Pampanga, ang layo yata, or sa Tacloban. Kung napapanis yung specimen, talagang iaabot. But in your experience, ang tanong, what lessons in governance can you share in addressing this disconnect, no, na nakikita ng lahat between the national and the LGU?
First, I'm actually nakakaingit sila Mayor Coro. I just really hope all the regions are like that. I just hope that all the governors and all the mayors and all the officers will be united. But ours here is totally different. Once you're not an ally to the governor, they will crucify you. Yun ang problema. Crucify you, persecute you, they will not even support you. Ang mangyayari, let's say there are LSIs in the checkpoint, they will still ask you to pick them up. So halimbawa, Del Gallego yun or Quezon, it's us, it's our responsibility to pick them up. And then magra-rapid test sila when it comes, pag positive sila, it is still our obligation to put them in isolation. So recently, in 1 week time, madami yung nag-positive. So it is now again our responsibility to get the PCR test. And yun na yung dilemma na naman namin. We have no laboratories available here in Bicol region. And unfortunately, because of that disconnect, ang nangyari, it's to each his own. So even the governors, they're not even open to PPP idea. Kasi yun na sabi a while ago ni Sir Jason, that we're negotiating with a private company to put up our own laboratory here. So ang problem, one of the governors is not do not go with the idea, do not accede with the idea of PPP. Tapos yung iba naman parang they want to buy their own laboratory, but we still have to wait for how many months because of the shipping, di ba po? So sabi ko kawawa naman talaga tayo, but we really have to look for an avenue. So what we did was we negotiated with a private company muna in Manila in the meantime while waiting for the private company to come in here in Iriga City. So we negotiated kasi full na, jump pack na yung isolation namin and all that. For me, dun sa disconnect, first, kasi dapat delineation ng obligation. Like, the national government should admit the fact that they are all theories. And dapat tanggapin din nila that the implementors are the executives. So, yun muna, the acceptance. Then we have to look for the missing link. So what was the missing link? Ang napansin ko, na-notice ko dito sa Bicol region, the missing link was the RDC. Hindi in-involve ang RDC. So walang voice ang governors, congressman, walang voice ang mayors. So I just really hope that it's bottom up, parang bottom up na policy. Dapat i-confirm muna, but to alleviate or to eradicate bureaucracy, kasi baka sabihin na naman nila it's bottom up, baka may bureaucracy. So it will take time to decide. Time is of the essence. We really have to decide na because it's pandemic, it's virus nga, it's health issue. So siguro ang mas maganda doon talagang every day you have to talk to these people to come up with a good policy. So lahat yung magkakaisa. Just the same goes with the Mayor Coro na talagang nagkakaisa sila, nag-uusap sila, and nag-negotiate sila. So walang...
Siguro i-adapt nyo, best practice yung Caraga, no?
Yeah. So pag ganun, pag may kausap ka, makukuha mo yung best practices ng iba, may implement mo din if it's applicable to you, then also yun pa yung maganda. May magsusupport sa'yo na you're on the right track. Kasi nangyayari ngayon na to each his own, you don't even know if tama yung ginagawa ko mo. And pag may gray area, hahanapan ka pa ng kalaban mo. Tapos, iko-crucify.
Dapat walang kalaban. Pag pandemic ang kalaban.
Dapat nga po ganun eh. I strongly appeal to all the politicians. This is not the time for politicking talaga. So I envy the Caraga group talaga and also the Iloilo. Kasi ang alam ko ang Iloilo talaga, they're all working together. That's why Iloilo City, look at now, Iloilo City, very progressive. And I've heard that sa ICT, it's now number 1. Before it used to be Davao or Bacolod, but now Iloilo City is number 1. So if you really work all together, there's nothing impossible.
Oo
Yun
naman.
talaga importante.
Di ba yan yung sa atin sa Kaya Natin? There are more things that bring us together than tear us apart. Di ba yan ang sabi ni Sec
Kaya
Jess?
natin.
Well, we have another question here. Siguro I'll start it off. Again, nandyan ka na, Mayor Mads. Maybe you can start it off. It's a question from one of our participants. May I know kung kamusta ang mga health workers sa lugar ninyo? Kung may programs po kayo para sa kanila to lessen their hardship at saka yung stress sa trabaho brought by COVID. Mayor Mads?
Yeah, problem namin, mental health, Sir Jason. Maybe you can help us with the mental health because everyone is really exhausted. And manpower, yan talagang problem natin. Kulang na rin yung manpower because we have been fighting this for 5 months already. But however, our health workers naman, first yung the BERTs and the BHERTs and the barangay health workers, we're giving them allowance every month. And with our nurses, they have naman their hazard pay. We give all the benefits. And then aside from the benefits, they have their overtime. So we give them all the benefits and even the PPEs. Sabi ko, no, we have to spend, we have to buy expensive PPEs because that's the only way how can we protect all our health workers. Because imagine, they're all facing all this COVID positives and all that. Tapos bibiglan mo sila ng PPEs na very, very cheap and not really conducive for them. Kawawa naman. So I'm really fighting for them. And also, yung mga sa isolation, they have their own houses. They stay in their own, meron silang lugar na inuuwian. We don't allow them to go to their family because for security reason, for health reason. And also, we have mass rapid testing. And then aside from rapid testing, we requested for a swab test. So maybe next week, all our health workers and all our frontliners will be having their swab testing.
Okay, Vice Mayor Coro, sa inyo, health workers, kumusta itong mga doktor, mga nurse dito sa ato?
Like sinabi ni Mayor Mads, yun, exhausted. I mean, let's face it, sila talaga yan. But when yung sa case namin, actually may isa kaming case before, yung start pa lang ng pandemic, but even the health workers were also discriminated. So we noticed na yung gap is in the communication. So massive yung kampanya versus the health workers to support them, and the way to support them is to reduce yung risk ng mismong tao.
Definitely.
So doon kami nagtutok kasi yung sa ospital very limited eh. Even our medtechs, sobrang wala kaming medtech. The reason some of the local governments could not put up RT-PCR or micro laboratories, wala kang pathologist. So yung may human resource gap talaga. You have to recognize that. Since may gap, how do you lessen the impact on that particular service? So doon kami nagtutok kasi pag hindi namin gagawin yun, Kawawa talaga sila.
Naman. The best
Kasi
way to help
wala
them
na eh. Wala
is
na
to
eh.
help yourself first, di ba?
Yes, ganun na lang. Parang shift mo na lang. Kaya nga, very strict kami sa borders. Babalik kami doon eh. Talagang focus on the border control, on the quarantine of the people. Kung hindi mo na matitest, 14-day quarantine, IgG, IgM. Minsan pag IgG positive, additional 3 days pa yan. Pag IgM, talagang another 14 days ka. So, doon na lang kami. Kasi sa science naman sinasabi, 14 days. Pag
Yes,
14
after
days na
that,
yan, wala na yan. So, yun lang yung magic number na tinitingnan namin, 14 days.
At itong ganitong understanding, sir, kalat na. Everyone
Kalat
knows
na.
this,
Oh,
everyone
yes.
understands
Yes.
this. Okay.
Kasi yun nga yun eh. Kailangan hindi siya umabot sana sa ospital. Tapos to manage naman yung non-COVID, importante rin yun eh. I-manage mo rin yung non-COVID cases, yung comorbidities. That's why we set up the telemed. So we're starting the telemed, tawag konsulta in Surigao. So you can call specialista, si senior citizen, bawal lumabas ng bahay, so you can call. Then we deliver medicine to your house.
So you deliver medicine.
Medicine to your house. Pag tumawag ka doon sa call center ng For Health. So, ganun yung mga initiatives na ginagawa to lessen the burden on the health workers. Yun talaga yung objective mo eh. Lessen the burden on them.
And we should let them know, no? I mean, Inquirer is our partner now. We're doing our best to help our health workers.
Yes, of course.
Let us know kung anong, di ba? Spread the word that best effort, we try to help. Thank you for that, VM. Board member Jason, your health workers in the province and maybe city of Iloilo as well?
I'm not aware kasi of the programs ng city when it comes to health workers or even yung sa province naman aside. Yung sa municipal naman kasi, you provide them with all the resources that they need.
Yes.
Gamit, sabi nga ni Vice Mayor Course ni Mayor Madel, na you provide them with the best na gamit na kailangan nila in order to protect them. Now, part of it is how can you lessen their workload? Kasi many of them are overworked. And tama din yung sinabi ni Vice Mayor Course na alam mo yun na by communicating effectively and telling the population na alam mo yun, to reduce yung mga unnecessary activities, to reduce infections, to reduce hospital visits, malaki yung tulong nun eh. Yung isang tao ko, for example, yung kapatid niya nagka-appendicitis. Dinala nila to hospitals in the city. They went to 7 hospitals and all 7 hospitals were full. So isipin mo, ang appendicitis is no laughing matter na pagka nag-burst yan, your life could be in danger.
Yes.
And they ended up having to go to a hospital in the province roughly an hour away from the city just to secure yung appendectomy nung kapatid niya. And we had to make phone calls in order to do that. So it also shows you na dito sa city, being the epicenter of both the epidemic and control of the epidemic, na our hospitals, and ang daming hospitals sa Iloilo, private, and they are all beyond capacity.
Overwhelmed.
So when you look at that,
overrun.
yes, overwhelmed. So ang tinitingnan nga natin dito, it's not so much the epidemic, but how it crowds and overburdens our public health system and even the private health system. So actually, yung gusto kong makitang number ngayon is ilan yung deaths that arose not because of COVID, but because of COVID-induced na overcrowding, which result. Yes. So yun, magandang malaman din yun, no? And yun, the solution really is to convince people to adopt, alam yun, behaviors that help our health workers. Kasi mabigyan mo lang yan ng additional na isang araw na pahinga, ang laki na ng epekto sa kanila eh. Kasi they are overworked and overburdened.
Yes. Thank you for that. I have a question here. It says, this one is on education. Ang tanong ng ating participant is, what is the situation of the students taking online classes? Is there any program that will help to accommodate the needs, like a stable internet or the devices that are required? Or do you actually do this in your areas, or are you back to face-to-face? Ano po ba sa inyo? Siguro, BM Jason, start off with you.
Dito sa province of Iloilo, we convene together, the whole Panay, no? We convene yung Regional Education Council, and we're working with Inquirer Foundation. And recently, we had a webinar with Ma'am Nene Guevara. and to discuss lang kung ano yung challenges that public education faces in the time of COVID and ano yung maitutulong ng mga LGUs. And yung nakita dito kasi, in terms of large-scale solutions, when you look at devices and digital sharing of digital content online, very limited ang capacity of LGUs, especially rural LGUs, to engage in that. So, saan kami? Balik pa rin kami sa printed versions ng mga modules. So, ang nangyayari ngayon, ang provincial government allocated, if I'm not mistaken, yung number is 42 million. So, it allocated 42 million to be distributed and used by the municipalities to help with that. So, example lang sa bayan ng Lambuna, ang ginagawa namin ngayon is purchasing of risograph machines na itinutulong sa national high schools. We have 4 national high schools, public national high schools. Tapos ito yung mga nagiging central points kung saan ipiprint and deployment jump off point nung mga modules. So doon namin dinadaan.
So paano yung validation niya, sir? I mean, printed lang siya. So how do you know na binabasa yung printed material?
Hindi na ako muna papasok doon, Marisa, kasi hindi ko masasagot yun. Kasi right now, when you look at the logistical challenges lang of being able to deploy a system like this, which is new to everyone, and right now, we are employing the help of punong barangays. Kasi ang itutulong ng mga punong barangays dito is yung pagtulong ng to make sure that the materials are distributed to the last student. So isa yun sa mga ginagawa right now. And yung sa tanong mo na kung paano mo monitor, kung nababasa, nabavalidate, hindi ko pa masasagot yan. Right
so yung
now,
provision muna. I guess yung step 1, dahan-dahan, but you know, you provide them with this.
Yes.
Okay, Mayor Madel? Online classes, gadgets, internet?
Yes, yan ang pinaka number 1 problem namin, connectivity. However, yung mga private schools, they have started already. So right now, it's online. But sometimes, they are mandated to go to the school, may face-to-face. Pero they also have to follow the protocol. They have to ask permit from the IMT. And then, if allowed, titingnan talaga sila, imo-monitor sila. But for the public school, maganda nga yung ginawa nila because it's blended. Ang ginawa nila, we of course we help the Iriga City help for the yung sinabi ni Sir Jason na pag-print nung mga what's this? Yung what do you call that? Yung ano nila?
Risograph, yung modules.
Modules. That's it, the modules. So what they did was it was divided into 4 quarters. The first quarter is handled by by DepEd. Yung second, it's the parents. That's a contribution of the parents. And the third and the fourth module, yun na po yung contribution ng city. And maybe by next year, probably all the 4 modules, 4 sets of modules probably will be shouldered by the city also. However, ang maganda kasi
Mayor Mads, paano yun? Pag sinabi mong handled by yung production?
Yeah, everything. Production, opo.
O pati yung first part, to ensure na mapag-aralan siya na ganun.
Yeah, even yun po.
So talagang accountability to. We're talking accountability here.
Accountability. Both yun, Marisa. And then, ang maganda kasi in-adopt nila yung ALS na idea, yung ALS na system.
Alternate, oo.
And lahat pa sila ng sariling TV station. So meron yung mga bata, like, di ba pag may press con, they have this competition of press con. So they avail of the radio station. May 1 hour sila sa radio station. May 1 hour dun sa may TV station. May 1 hour dun sa cable. Kasi di ba, you can go online, you can go live stream, and then kinukuha yon ng for free ng mga cable system. And also, ang maganda doon, humingi sila kasama sa logistics, transportation kasi once a month or twice a month, they will go to the barangay to check if the kids are really answering the modules. So yun din po yung ginagawa nila. So it's really accountability and dedication.
So the whole
of
thing, talagang the
Yes.
parents, well, as they say in Sinergia, it takes a whole community to educate a child.
Community.
Diba?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we will see what will be the result.
Yes, we are now approaching the end of this, and I'm saving the best for last, which came out in the discussions ninyong tatlo, no? The issue on is perhaps even a bigger killer, the issue on mental health. Siguro I will start with, please remember our partners. Again, we'd like to thank them, no? Inquirer Group is here, the Inquirer Foundation, Inquirer.net, INQ subscription, the Philippine Daily Inquirer. You can use this as an avenue for what is probably a silent killer. So I'll start off with Vice Mayor Coro on this, the issue of mental health.
Thank you, Ma'am Marisa, for raising that point. Gusto talaga siyang mailabas kasi one of the things we are monitoring now and looking into is suicides. Apparently, there's been a rise in suicides during this particular period with a very specific age group, yung mga teenagers. And there has been not a lot of talk about this particular silent killer, sinabi mo nga, even in the national government. So in our case, for example, we noticed na nung una, yung first case namin, parang baka isolated case lang. Nung naging dalawa na, medyo alarming na siya. We had 2 teens and 1 adult na case ng suicide. So 3 in the period, and started asking the city. And the cities told me that they had 8 cases of teenage suicides. And that's pretty alarming. And we're now trying to look into how do we now raise this particular point na in COVID, na-resolve natin yung potential death. Wala kaming death kahit isa. Pagdating sa suicide, bakit napakarami? Hindi pa nga validated yung numbers. Kahit kami pa lang, 3 na. What is the effect of this quarantine, of this pandemic towards the mental health of people who are, hindi ganun ka-mobile in an age wherein travel has become an essential part of our daily life. Bigla mo silang pipigilan. What is the effect on that on a lot of people, rural or city? So I hope Inquirer, our partners from Inquirer Group can help us raise this voice towards national government.
No?
Yeah, so investigating, to do some investigation on suicides in this time of COVID.
Suicides, and to use that term, it's really very alarming, no? Taking your own life. That's very alarming. Board member Jason, how about Iloilo? What is your experience?
Yung, as I've said earlier, based sa result sa report ng Iloilo Provincial Police Office, as of today, we've had 28 suicide cases.
Oh my.
This is coming from February 1 until today, until June 17, but the bulk of that happened during yung COVID na lockdowns. So, yung provincial government nag-institute naman ng counseling services, pero limited ang scope. And I think it is an awareness problem. Tama si Vice Course, no? Na totoo na madaming tao na hindi nila nakikita to bilang problema. And one of the things that we can do is to advocate for it. And part of it is getting the numbers right, and then coordinating with the media to bring light upon the issue. So isa yun sa mga importante nating ilabas ngayon na mas malaking killer pa pala ang suicide kaysa sa COVID. So again, then we can come up with large-scale solutions to this na pwede siyang i-integrate into treatment plans, pwede siyang integrate into mga medical interventions. I don't know what would the details of those be, pero I can imagine a holistic approach na hindi lang siya purely medical, medicinal na treatment. Yes. So, and again, it starts with awareness. Kailangang malaman ng tao, maintindihan na na equally big na problem siya. Kasi yun na nga
equally big.
Nasa probinsya ng Iloilo, mabibilang sa isang kamay yung namatay, pero yung nag-suicide, 28 na pala.
Oo, 28. That's a Huge number para akong... how about you, Mayor Madel? What is the experience of Iriga?
Actually, ironic nga po kasi 3 years ago, that's a big problem of Iriga. We used to have eight suicide. Mga yon, 8 yon lahat. And the same barangay, in one particular barangay. So sabi ko, it was really alarming during the time. However, during the COVID, we really thank God that wala talaga kami, as in zero. But however, sabi ko, since it has been a problem, actually we have a program already with mental health. We have a partnership with actually nagkumuha 2 times a week in our city health. So if they have a problem, they can coordinate with our city health officer, and then perhaps pwede silang mabigyan ng oras ng psychiatrist. And also we have our crisis center, so everybody's aware in the barangay if they're having problem. They can stay at the crisis center. We have our parents there, our poster parents. Sila mag-aasikaso sa kanila, so if they're having problems with their family. So since yun din po, awareness, at least aware ang lahat ng barangay that they all know that they can run to the crisis center. So hindi sila pababayaan ng mga social workers doon. And alam din nila na may tatakbuhan. Yun ang pinaka-importante. So after ng ICT, probably kung mag-work na po ang magfa-function na ang ICT, maybe we will open a 24-hour call takers for cases like that. So mag-start na po kami, kung mag-start by October, probably November or December, we will open a mga 24-hour call takers for that also. Na syempre they should be capacitated also because they know they have to handle. They should be capacitated how to handle this problem kasi iba to
iba siya.
Brain, utak to iba siya. So kailangan you know how to negotiate also with these people. Iba ang gagamitin language when it comes to talking to these people who are having problems, difficulty problems. So paunti-unti. Start kami ng mental health programs namin.
Just out of curiosity lang, with these 3 local officials that we have here now, there is no mention whatsoever of this issue in the IATF. Wala kayong directive, wala kayong order, wala.
Kung mental health, meron. Mental health in a sense that if everybody's exhausted, maybe you
yun
need
lang, yes.
Intervention.
Yes. But
yung mga ganun lang.
Ang nakikita natin ngayon na ina-address ng mental health is the frontliners dahil brought about by exhaustion. But ang hindi nakikita is in the community itself. It is becoming a serious concern. So I guess that's a very good issue to take up, and this is a very good venue to raise it. We are thankful again to our partners for giving us the opportunity. So I guess before I ask for your parting words, I will ask the question first now, but siguro as a parting word before we close this, what is your bare months na tayo Ano ang outlook nyo for Christmas, di ba? Ano sa tingin nyo ang celebration ng Pasko under COVID? Di ba? Ano nang hitsura ng magiging hitsura ng ating festivities? So I'll give you a few minutes, 1 minute to think about that while we flash our Kaya Natin, Camille. We have we are giving out 10 Android tablets to 10 deserving Filipinos. So we have an announcement. KN will be giving away 10 Android tablets to 10 deserving Filipinos. All they need to do is to tag a friend who they think deserves a tablet for online learning. Lalo na yung talagang walang-wala, di ba? The nominee must be enrolled in an upcoming academic year, dedicated sa kanilang edukasyon despite the COVID pandemic. At saka to be eligible for the prize, tulungan natin kaibigan natin, di ba? So hopefully we will be able to tap 10 deserving students na makakatanggap ng ating tablets. So again, this will be a project of Kaya Natin. As soon as you can do it, we will choose from the most deserving entries that we will be getting from all of you. Again, thank you very much to Inquirer, our partners, Inquirer Foundation, INQ Subscription, and the Philippine Daily Inquirer for this. Partner natin dun sa pamimigay ng tablets ang Jesse M. Robredo Foundation. So to go back to my last question, Vice Mayor Coro, Burr months. What is Burr months under COVID?
Ang Surigao kasi, our November to February next year is our typhoon season. So what we are doing now is actually preparing how to manage pandemic in the time of disasters. So yun yung aming Pasko. Hopefully,
yun yung Pasko.
Yeah, has always been our Christmas and New Year. Laging binabagyo. So hopefully the families will still continue to celebrate, embrace the very essence of Christmas, which is family, and focus on our faith. Kaya natin to. Diba?
Kaya natin to.
Kaya natin to.
Yes, thank you very much, Board Member Jason.
What I'm looking forward to is yung continuous na strengthening of capacity at the local level. So patuloy na pagpapalakas ng mga local government units when it comes to addressing the pandemic, and hopefully na even with the pandemic present, na the medical interventions are in place, na it will restore partial consumer confidence, na yung mga tao are more readily and more confident in going around, and kahit papaano na bumalik yung pamimili at saka yung pag-consume natin. And finally, yes, kumpiyansa. And then finally is a stronger food system that may arise from this. That is a challenge that I'm working on with a group of a small community of people working on agriculture, na tinitingnan namin kung paano ma-reinvent yung food system in the time of COVID, because there is an opportunity here. Yes. So yun, that's what I'm excited about.
Very interesting. Find the opportunity. Thank you. Thank you for that, Board Member Jason. And finally, Mayor Madel. Pasko sa Iriga.
I agree with Sir Jason. There's really an opportunity. Yeah, I agree with Sir Jason. There's really an opportunity. So it's a matter of looking for that kind of opportunity. Actually, with Mayor Coro, we have the same fate. Every December, it's typhoon. So, but you know, the region has been a typhoon-prone area. So we've been resilient for that. But yun nga, nakakalungkot pa din. Kasi last year, it was New Year. And then last year, it was Christmas. So we don't know what will happen again this Christmas, this Christmas. But hopefully, I have a wish to all the people. We don't know how long will it take for them to be patient enough to understand COVID. We don't know how long will it take for them to understand and to be patient and to follow all policies, kasi it has been 5 months already, and by December it will be 8 months. But however, my wish to everyone is to become more resilient and more patient. And tama, let us all celebrate the essence of Christmas. Let us not forget the Lord God. He's really the one who's, he's the reason for everything. And I'm pretty sure he has a reason for all this. So it's a matter of looking for what those reasons are. That depends on us.
Okay. Thank you very much. And just to let me wrap up these things that we picked up from you today, based on my notes here, I have a few. One thing is buy local. You all bought local for all your people. So we continue to do that even in a larger scale. Keywords that I picked out from BMJ's on transparency is key. When you give public service, you have to be transparent everything that you do. You know, you have to have one voice, sabi ni Vice Mayor Coro. Best practice is the shield, Caraga shield. I think we should spread that out. Strengthening of ICT, Mayor Madel, you have that now, and hopefully it will be to the benefit. You can optimize utilization in the coming years. Investment incentives. You have to look for ways to innovate, no? Think outside of the box if it means long-term tourists. And communication is key. We have to communicate to everyone, and hopefully with a unified voice. And the important gray area for me, we've seen that all our local government officials are very much aware of the COVID scenarios and situation now. So they're addressing this, but there is a gray area, which is mental health. We are calling out through our partners, the Inquirer, on this issue of mental health, not just for the frontliners, but for the community itself. You know, it's gray, and before we can have a uniform or united approach, perhaps before it even becomes a bigger problem, hopefully it can be addressed. And I wrap up with my own Christmas message. Message of Christmas is life. Jesus Christ was born. So let us celebrate life and let us live for each other and not count the deaths, but give importance to life. With that, I say 12 years of Kaya Natin, and through this, kakayanin natin ito. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you.
Kaya
Merry
Natin.
Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Governance. Kaya Natin Movement's webinar series is in partnership with the Philippine Daily Inquirer, the Inquirer Foundation, and Inquirer.net.